we've been filming, we've asked our listeners what they're most interested in and the topics they want us to talk about, and single parenting has been a huge topic. So let's dive deep and
into the joys.
So Dakota, you've been a single mum and now you're co-parenting.
Yeah, it's good. We've found our groove now, but it's been a bumpy and, long road to get there. But yeah, we're there, which is really great. So we're co-parenting
and
well.
Tash, you're going through everything at the moment.
Yeah, I'm a relatively new single mother. And it hasn't been an easy ride by any means. It was, I suppose, like the first few days of single parenting, well, months, I was in my third trimester of my second pregnancy and had a 2-year-old. And it was pretty heartbreaking, to be honest. It was like the worst time of my life, I would say. And I really just got through it to have the baby.
In survival mode,
and I think I spent, the first year now of just being in fight or flight, really. Like, it was a case of just getting through day by day because all your hopes and dreams of what it should have looked like went out the window. And
you were pregnant on top of that, which just adds another layer.
Yeah, it did. And I think when you're pregnant, you have these sort of expectations of how it should be anyway. And I had a pretty horrific pregnancy in terms of severe nausea and vomiting. Then to come into this in my third trimester, it was just like pretty bleak.
Yeah.
But you just need to lean on the people around you. And they dragged me through it and had the baby, had Alfie. He was not well, which was just another huge hurdle. Sort of just coming at me from all angles.
It really came in a 3 for you there, really strong 3.
But we got through, and now it's more of the like navigating this as a reality. Yeah. And I think, I don't know about you, but for me, like that first year just was not reality. It was literally just survival.
Especially with a newborn. It's like one thing to go through a breakup, but then it's another when you're focusing on a newborn and you've got another child as well. So it's like, in a way, was it a distraction because you were focusing on your kids?
I definitely think that the like heartbreak of like a separation was a little bit overshadowed by the
busyness of being a mum.
Busyness, and also like the devastation at the broken family, as opposed to like my individual heartache, because I was just literally trying to survive. I needed to like get through to the birth, and then after the birth, which was so bad, get him out of hospital and then get him home. And he was a really bad feeder and really colicky, and so I needed to get through that next stage. So it was always just about like, just get through to this and just get through to that.
And you're really
now
just
I'm like,
a year in.
Yeah, he's 15 months now. So now I feel like, there's never any normal with young kids, but I do feel like I'm settling into a new normal, which sounded like an impossible sort of task when I was faced with it. I mean, I remember when I was pregnant and I couldn't even utter or like think the word single mother or single parent without breaking down. I like refused to believe that that's what I was and that's what I would be. Like, I don't know if it was shame or judgment. But, there's been a lot of therapy and a lot of self-work in that time to get to a point where you kind of, I don't think I'm quite there with saying I'm proud, but I am doing this. You have to accept it. And you just got to put the kids first constantly.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's like that you're in survival mode.
Absolutely.
And I think it's a loss of the dream.
Yes,
like
I think that's
such a big thing. That was big for me.
Yeah. I think that's really heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Because you pictured that whole family all together, and then that's kind of been taken away. Yeah. Whether it was your choice or someone else's choice.
Yeah.
And then it's just kind of rebuilding that family in a different environment. I guess bringing up your children differently to how you pictured it, but in the same loving environment.
So it takes a long time to get your head around that new
It's a shock
image.
And you're in survival mode for sure, in a fight or flight for that first.
How old was Zimmy when you...
When I split, she was 6 months.
6 months.
Yeah, so she was little.
Yeah.
And it had been rocky 6 months. And, I kind of just knew it was time. And I was living down south at the time and moved back to Perth with my mum. So I was actually living at my mum's house in her granny flat, and I remember just feeling like, what is my life? Like, how am I here?
Yeah.
Like, I'm living back at my mum's house with a baby. And I was 25, so I was still a baby myself, and just thinking, this is just not how it's supposed to be. Like, I wanted to be, I should have been a step ahead here. And I was just, it was really gut-wrenching and heartbreaking to be there.
How did you come over the feeling of loneliness? When did that set in?
I feel like the weekends were like a really tough time of feeling lonely, because my friends who were still young and going out were out partying, and then I had friends with kids and who were married, and they were having their family time. So I found the weekends particularly triggering or hard. And I feel like I just lean on my family then, because I was so close with them and friends as well, but mostly family, because
I definitely agree.
you go for like a family lunch, or you go for a family dinner, you bring
or
a
just
kid,
go hang out at your family's house.
Yeah, you can just be there.
My family are so amazing, but if they have something on or if they are away, I find the weekends particularly difficult.
Long as well.
Because it's fine when you make plans for yourself to go out, but then there's still the next day, and everyone's happy just hanging out doing their family thing, and you don't want to intrude, because that is like
You've been there.
I was
I
I've been
remember
there.
feeling like that as
it was
well.
sacred. So that's been, I think I'm getting a little more used to it now, but lots of just like teary weekends, I think, and just trying to slow down and realize that, how lucky I am. I've got 2 healthy kids here.
What about control? Like, did you feel like you lost control at any point when the kids went to the other partner, or choices over having what you want the best for the children and how to make all those decisions with your other...
So hard when they're young and you've got young kids. And Zimmy was 6 months old, and we like started doing time, like she would go to her dad's for a night or 2 nights here and there from a really early age, probably from 9 months. And that was so hard. Like, she was bottle fed, so it was okay. But I just remember feeling like I'd lost a limb and not having that control. You're used to having control of everything, when they eat, when they sleep, absolutely everything about their lives. So when you lose that and there's kind of nothing you can do, that felt like...
You feel a complete loss.
Yeah, like you're empty inside. And that's so hard.
You don't even feel like distracting yourself almost. Like, it's so hard to pull yourself out of it, because...
And I felt angry. Like, I felt like a lot of anger come up in that. I don't know why.
I did move back in with my parents when Alfie was born, which was a godsend, because my little girl was so busy, and Alfie was a terrible feeder, so I was pumping. But I lost control of like my birth. He was in hospital in the NICU afterwards and everything. So I became a bit obsessed with feeding as a way to try and control him, even though control something in my life, even though he was a terrible breastfeeder. He had tongue tie, and I saw so many lactation consults. I became all consumed by that. So it was like I was diverting that control into another sort of channel.
Like a distraction from what was going
on
outside. Like, I'm going to put all my energy into this baby and what's going on with him instead of, and try and block that noise as to what's going on outside.
Yeah, that's been a tricky one to navigate.
I think especially for a mum. Like, you
I
grew
think
this baby, you birthed this baby, you fed this baby on your breast, you're up all night with this baby, and then suddenly you have to relinquish
it's really
your control
difficult.
and power. It feels so
wrong.
I
think so much of it just felt so unnatural and
not
so
okay.
physiologically wrong as well. I said in some earlier episodes about surrendering in motherhood, which is fine. And the other thing that I think I've really had to live by in the last 18 months or so is to pick your battles. And so although you can't control everything, you've really got to pick like what is the most important to you and what is worth fighting for and those kind of things, because as we all know, our time and energy is so precious.
How do you grow comfortably with custody?
Work in progress for me.
Yeah, I think it's a work in progress, and I think it comes down to the relationship you have with your ex-partner, that there's trust there, honesty, and respect, like respecting each other as parents, and being honest with each other. Like if there's not honesty there, then there's no trust.
Yeah.
Like you've got quite a good relationship with your ex. Did it take a long time to
Yes.
to get there?
Yes, it did. Yeah, 100%.
And how did you get there? Like,
I think once we moved past like the loss of the relationship, and I don't know where it time for sure. Like I feel like it was a solid 3 years. 3 years before we got to that point of having respect and kindness for each other. And for a while, if it needs to be that you don't have these in-depth conversations and a friendship,
and
that's
it doesn't
okay.
need to be. It can be like somewhat transactional, like business-like.
It
That's
needs to be
healthier than
sometimes.
nasty.
toxic, yeah.
So I think that is important for the sake of the kids, especially when it's so young in my case. And, you know, Zimmy's, because this is what they're absorbing from such a young age. You
want them to have a good relationship with their father.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
at their best interest. So you don't want to like,
tarnish that.
No.
No, I think it's important. And yeah, I think, you know, as mothers we go through, we do a lot of difficult things, but it's important to hold, and fathers in separation, you know, to hold yourself accountable to that, putting the kids first.
And what about guilt? Like I can imagine that's a huge weight on your shoulders when, you know, you first split up and you've got this guilt towards your children or your family.
Yeah.
Like how do you manifest that?
You just have to learn that you're doing all you can. You just have to really appreciate that you're doing all you can do, and give them everything that you can, and you can only control what you can control, and just...
And I think you'll find parts of guilt still creeping in.
Yeah.
Like I sometimes do.
And I'm sure like motherhood is filled with so much guilt anyway.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's amplified, I think, when you're a single mother.
Yeah.
So it's a challenge. You just have to take it each day as it comes. But really, if you're giving it everything you've got, like that's all you can give. You can't do more.
And what about dealing with separation on top of being a single parent? Like you're also going through a breakup at the same time as you're trying to be a single mom.
Because I was so distracted by the baby and feeding, like sure there was days where it was amplified because you're so extra hormonal, but I did just have to get on with it.
You have no choice. You have to pick up your stuff and you have to get going and you have to be there for your kids.
Yeah. And look, I wouldn't say there's positives to it, but I did have the survival of like the kids to think about as well. But it's hard.
And it's a long process because you're looking after two children. I was looking after one child.
Yeah.
I was still working. I was still having to get up on my feet, find myself a house, get myself, you know, still financially provide and do all of that.
Oh, you're juggling so many balls.
You have to, you just have to get on with it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the processing your own relationship breakdown. I feel like it comes a little bit later almost because you don't have time to think about it. Or like it can feel really hurtful and you can feel left out. And I mean, we split, we obviously had lots of mutual friends and sometimes you wouldn't cop an invite to something and the other one would, and it feels like maybe they're taking a side, and then people are like, I don't want to take a side, and people don't like breakups either. They don't like the breakdowns of other people's relationships. They don't know what to do, and some people can say the wrong things, and some people can be great. And it's like it's actually another minefield. The whole friends and family.
Figuring out who your true friends are during that time.
100%, I would say. Like you really have some strong people to lean on.
Yeah, I've been so fortunate with unbelievable friends and family, and both the physical and the mental load that it takes on you. How do you deal with that? I think that I can get past the physical sort of load, but it's the mental load and the emotional toll it's taken that is really difficult. It's not having that person to turn to, you know,
the end of the day.
What should we do here? Like, is that the right way to discipline them? How should we approach this? Like, or if there's issues, not that I've had this yet, but like at school or something, I imagine that's going to be difficult. Not being able to just turn and like, oh God, what should we do here? Hopefully I'll get back there. But in the moment, like there's no just quickly turning around and being like, did you see that? Like that was funny, or like that was hilarious.
Yeah, but I think the mental load of the emotional stuff that's hard, or not being able to
knowing it's you, like it feels like it's all on your shoulders.
Yes, and not having someone to bounce off, like you said, like, oh God, this happened.
Yeah.
how do you think we should manage
like
it?
almost having to like schedule in time to discuss things that would have been way better to discuss in the moment.
How's the financial element of the household post-separation?
I wasn't married to Zim's dad, so financially we just parted our ways. I was lucky I had a business, so I was financially independent always, and I always actually say how lucky I was that I had my business, and I was always financially independent because it meant I was able
to leave.
Does
the government help? Like, where do you go to see what you're entitled to?
There, like, you go to Centrelink for family benefits and stuff.
Lawyers,
but just little,
mediators.
Yeah, it's
There's
expensive.
Lots of help out there.
There's lots of help, but it's really expensive. But little things like getting a mortgage into a sole name is next to impossible. So, just all these different things that you have to navigate. And I can imagine, like getting a lease on a house by yourself. Luckily, you had your business to, be able to do that. But again, for women who aren't in that position,
and only one
really
child.
difficult.
Like I think you had
two,
one and a half, and then you had two, and I feel like that's a different ball game altogether. Then because you're really, once you go from 1 to 2, I find you're really juggling. Whereas I had one, and I took Zimmy everywhere with me. She was just my sidekick. I was able to manage and cope with one baby as a single mom and have a business and just a bit of a social life. Like I could manage that, but I don't know how I would have gone with 2.
Yeah, it's
it's like just an added.
Yeah, especially when they're so little.
Yeah,
your self-care, your self-worth, and your confidence. I can imagine that gets tested, like when you're going through a separation.
Yeah,
what's a way of nurturing that and looking after yourself?
I think you just have to do things that make you feel good because you're going through a really turbulent and horrible and sad time is a reality for a bit.
My self-care is pretty minimal, but I try and book these, dinners or lunch or something every few weeks with some friends. I try and get to a Pilates class once a week. I'm fortunate that I can do these things, but they're small compared to what I used to be able to do. So because you can't just pop out, you can't just go for a walk by yourself when you need to. You can't just go and take 5.
And lots of single mums, they don't even have
those resources. So yeah, I'm fortunate. So I think in whatever way you can, just trying to carve out a little bit of you time.
If you had any advice to single mums that are going through it at the moment, what would it be?
That the hard times will pass. And it gets easier.
Yeah.
It definitely gets easier. And surrender to loss of control and things like that you can't control.
All the things that feel so unnatural.
All the things that feel heart-wrenching and unnatural and not right. Surrender to it and, get through.
And I know that feeling of feeling like it can't get any better, like it can't get any worse. Like this is just the worst thing. And in that moment it is, but it will get better.
It will pass.
It'll take time, but it will. And lean on the help, lean on those around you.
And you do come out stronger. You really do. You learn so much and about yourself and about your values and what you want for your future. You become quite clear on that.
Yeah, ask for help, talk to other people. I mean, it's been so nice being able to bounce things off you. Because they're not scenarios that many people that I know have been in. It makes you feel less alone. Yeah. Because you're not alone, I don't think. You feel alone, but you're not.
Definitely not alone.
There's other people out there going...